It's April. That means it's NFL draft season. And with NFL draft season, it's, of course, NFL mock draft season. Everybody, their next door neighbor, their mom, their dad, their cat, their dog, they all have an NFL mock draft today. We're talking about Field Yates. My guy, Field Yates, over at ESPN. He has released a new mock draft, 2 rounds. We're going to react to a 2-rounder in this video. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button like your life depended on it. And don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL draft coverage, NFL news, NFL analysis on all 32 teams, unlike any other YouTube channel that there is. Let's go. Let's react to Field Yates' new mock that just came out today, 2-rounder. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Mock draft season. Field Yates predicts rounds 1 and 2. It clearly states predicts, all right? He's got predictions. I like Field Yates. Why? He's a fantasy guy. He's a Patriot, former beat writer, if I'm not mistaken. I remember him, man. So I've been a Field Yates guy for a minute. He says April is here, which means the 2025 NFL draft is right around the corner. This guy stole my intro. I've put together a handful of mock drafts so far, but none of them has gone past the first round. This is his first 64-pick deep prediction mock draft. A new home for 5 quarterbacks. All right, let's find out this new home. Okay, round 1. Pick 1. We don't even really need to spend that much time. It feels like every mock draft that is predictive will predict from here on out, whether you like it or not, Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. I think this should be a free square this season. Cam Ward, I talked about him in my NFL quarterback draft class analysis. And basically, why he's going first is his creativity, his confidence, his arm angles, arm power to hit second-level throws, and that flexibility in the quick game is, I think, elite. So I think you combine his ability in terms of off-the-field and on-the-field confidence, and you combine that with the skill to throw the ball the way that he does at the first and second level, and you have a potentially pretty special guy that could turn around Tennessee. At number 2, he's going Abdul Carter. Interesting. This is another mock draft going with Abdul Carter at number 2. Now, I want to hear what he has to say. The Browns haven't frequently been linked to the top quarterbacks, which indicates they are more likely focused on choosing between Carter and Colorado receiver corner Travis Hunter. They did trade for Kenny Pickett, and spoiler, can find another quarterback option later in the draft with Deshaun Watson out. Okay, so he thinks they might go quarterback later, second round, I assume, because this is only a 2-round mock. We're not signing up for 7 rounds in this video quite yet, okay? While Hunter is my top prospect, Carter isn't far behind, and putting him opposite Myles Garrett could form perhaps the scariest pass rush duo in the NFL. Carter had 12 sacks. Okay, now personally, I wouldn't mind this pick for Cleveland. I would prefer this over picking Shedeur Sanders because I think Shedeur Sanders is closer to mid than special. I don't see the out-of-this-world talent with Shedeur Sanders. I like him as a guy off the field. I like his confidence and leadership capabilities, and I like his accuracy. But he leaves a lot to be desired athletically from an arm strength standpoint, from a deep ball standpoint. He leaves a lot to be desired in terms of game-changing, game-altering, franchise-altering traits, which is why I would not take Shedeur Sanders in the top 10, right? If you want to take him after that, I can buy into it, okay? You can sell me on it. But in the top 10, I would not do it. Now, I would go with Travis Hunter if I was Cleveland because I think they need a wide receiver more than they need an edge. They just put $40 million into Myles Garrett. Okay, and I understand defensive line is very important, and Abdul Carter is a stud. Don't get me wrong. But if I were them, I would pick Travis Hunter because I think he is special. He can be great at wide receiver, a game-changing talent with the ball, especially with the ball in the air. The way he articulates his body is incredible. His body control for his size is pretty impeccable. And then you combine that with the ability to play top-notch corner too. I mean, it's hard to pass that up, in my opinion, especially with Cleveland. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was great last year. He's not really a number one receiver. They have Myles Garrett at defensive end. At number 3, he's going with Shedeur to the Giants. Interesting. So I don't understand why the Browns are not attached to Sanders, but the Giants are. The Giants have better options at quarterback than the Browns. Like, let's break it down. Russell Wilson or Kenny Pickett? Jameis Winston or Kenny Pickett? Yeah, I would take the Giants options over Kenny Pickett every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I don't really understand, especially with the Giants having 2 big personality quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, in that room with Shedeur Sanders, with the circus of the New York media. It sounds like a bad idea. So Field, I disagree with this. I disagree with it from a philosophy standpoint, and I disagree with it from a predictive standpoint. I think the Browns are more likely to take Sanders because they need a quarterback a lot more than the Giants. Like, they do. The Giants have 2 quarterbacks better than the Browns' first quarterback. And he says, despite the Giants signing Russ and Jameis, I just don't see them passing on Sanders. If the team is bullish on Sanders, well, we're not sure if they are or not, being its franchise quarterback, the veteran signings are irrelevant. Okay, then what about Cleveland, though? Like, okay, he says that Cleveland is not, like, he says in the first sentence, haven't frequently been linked to top quarterbacks. What does that mean? Do you know something? Like, why would they not be linked to top quarterbacks? That's my question. This would be a move about the future and stability. Sure, I guess, but is Brian Daboll going to be a part of that future? I think he would rather have Travis Hunter to help his offense or maybe his cornerback group that was atrocious last year. That's just my opinion. And I'm a Patriots fan who benefits from having Travis Hunter fall to 4. So I'm not complaining, and I get it, Field Yates. Bro, you're a Patriots guy yourself too, I think. So maybe you're a little biased. But I mean, yeah, give me Travis Hunter. If Shedeur goes ahead of me, I will be screaming. I'll take my shirt off, run around in circles on the live stream. All right. But I mean, wow. I just don't get it from either team's perspective why they would pick both those players over Hunter. I just think that the Hunter pick is a bigger need for both of those teams. That's just my opinion. Now, the Patriots, they would obviously pick Hunter. Despite signing Stephon Diggs, they still need a game-changing wide receiver and a playmaker. And obviously, Patriots have long been known for versatile players. Mike Vrabel was one of them. So I don't think they would be too concerned about finding a role for him on both sides of the ball. Right? They did it before with multiple players. And, you know, Stephon Diggs would be the perfect type of player, like almost exactly the same sort of size and build too, to the point where he could help mold him and craft him and tutor him and mentor him at the NFL level for the next 2 years. So that would be an awesome 1-2 in New England for Drake May. I would be absolutely elated if that were the case. I just don't know why the Giants and Browns would allow that to be the case. Now, in Jacksonville, everybody is picking Mason Graham. I've explained before, and I think it's the same thing. You know, Graham is the type of guy that the new general manager from the Rams is going to like. He's Aaron Donald-ish in that mold, right? He's the smaller D tackle that's quick and penetrates. Uses his hands, gets up the field, gets in the backfield. Kind of like Fisk was from FSU last year, who played for the Rams last year. So Mason Graham fits right in with Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker, and I wouldn't blame them for that whatsoever. Ashton Genty to the Raiders. Now let's see what he has to say with Ashton Genty, because this one has been debated, but this seems to be the most popular pick here. The Raiders have a thin running back room. Raheem Mostert is listed as the top of the depth chart. I'm not sure if he actually would be. I don't mind, Zamir White or the other kid, McCormick, that they played last year. I feel like both of them can play a little bit. But obviously, Genty as a game changer compared to anybody on the roster right now. New coach Pete Carroll has historically relied on the running game, so Genty is an easy match. I think the more important thing here is how does he fit with the offensive coordinator, which is Chip Kelly. I believe Genty has the best chance of any player in the class to be a Pro Bowler in year one. That probably makes sense. His rare blend of power, contact balance, explosion, and pass catching ability can keep him on the field for any situation. All right, so not too much on the team fit outside of the Pete Carroll deal, which I guess is fair enough. But yeah, I mean, the Raiders definitely need a running back more than most teams, and they didn't really address it outside of the old man, Raheem Mostert. At number 7, the New York Jets taking Armand Membu once again in this mock draft, as many others. Okay, that seems to be the popular pick. Justin Fields means that the Jets have a quarterback solution for at least 2025. Not a good one, but yes, a solution. That's not in the article. That's me. But the loss of Morgan Moses in free agency means they have a hole at right tackle. Yes, Morgan Moses, New England Patriot. New York already had a pass protection issues, finishing 23rd in pass block win rate. Okay, providing some stats. Membu had a meteoric rise in 2024 as the 20-year-old dominated in the SEC with tenacity, elite movement skills, and pass protection proficiency. He can be a tone setter. Okay, alongside Fashanu. I agree with this team building philosophy. Get your left tackle, get your right tackle, especially with the left tackle still recovering, I believe, from an injury. So get those suited for whoever your next quarterback will be, because it won't be Justin Fields for very long. So it will help Justin Fields in the short term, protect him, a guy that likes to hold on the ball, but also open up the running game for Justin Fields and Breece Hall. But then long term, I think it allows you to protect the quarterback, which is a smart move. The defense is fine enough. Aaron Glenn should be able to handle that. At number 8, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. This has been a popular pick. I kind of do wonder if Jalen Walker would be the preferred pick over maybe Campbell, the linebacker, just because, you think about Dan Morgan being a linebacker himself. What would he covet more? The guy that can play on the edge and play linebacker, but he's maybe not as good, or the guy that's maybe a better, traditional linebacker? Carolina needs both, right? I think Carolina does need edge rush. They've needed it since they let go of Brian Burns, but they did sign, I think, Pat Jones, who has some versatility to his game, kind of like Jalen Walker. So how many of those type of guys do you really want? Right? Frankie Louvu left last offseason, so that kind of enabled them to open a spot for this edge linebacker type of player. Panthers have made a series of edge rush investments over the past 2 years, but none have massively moved the needle. They allowed the most yards per play and tied for the third fewest sacks. Yeah, they definitely need to address their pass rush, because their best player in their front seven is not a sack guy. Like, Derek Brown is not a sack guy. The guy that's probably invested in the most, Jadeveon Clowney, is not a great pass rusher. So, yeah, they definitely need a pass rusher, but are you going to go with the guy that's more of a hybrid than a true elite rusher is my question. At number 9, Shamar Stewart feels like a reach, but I mean, he could go this high. So if you're predicting this, I understand it. But why the Saints? Okay, the question for me with the Saints is they have Cam Jordan, who is older. They just signed Chase Young to a decently sized contract, and Carl Granderson is a lot better than people think. So is edge really truly the biggest need? But then we look at this article. Let's see. I've said this about Stewart throughout the pre-draft process. The general manager who uses a high pick on him will need a lot of cachet. Stewart is a risky pick with exactly 1.5 sacks in each of his last 3 collegiate seasons, which is crazy. Mickey Loomis fits the GM bill perfectly. Crazy to say that because Loomis has not been successful for a while. And the Saints haven't been afraid. Maybe this pick is a fried. But also afraid of taking toolsy pass rushers in the first round like Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport. Wouldn't categorize Peyton Turner as that, but Marcus Davenport definitely. This would be the ultimate big swing given Stewart's upside at the position. I don't really necessarily see an argument why the Saints would want him, though. I would like you to answer that question here, because I personally don't think edge is as big of a need, because Will Campbell's on the board. If I were the Saints, I'd pick Will Campbell. Right tackle is still suspect for them. Left guard is hugely suspect, and it's an LSU kid. Like, that's a much more home run type of pick, in my opinion. Bears picking Will Campbell, though, is interesting. I don't think they'll go offensive lineman. I can be talked into it, but I think they would prefer the running back. I think they would prefer maybe D-line. Because, like, I think their tackles are a lot better than people think, personally. And they just addressed the interior, all 3 new starters in free agency. So I think they're probably going to go defense in the first round. Or running back. Like, if Genty's there, I could see that. Maybe even tight end or something. But, like, to me, Campbell, maybe they think he's the best player and they'll just pick him. That would also make sense. Right? But where is he playing in year 1? Is he even starting? Is Will Campbell good enough to start over Braxton Jones, is my opinion. Like, my question. Is he good enough? Because Braxton Jones isn't that bad. Like, people think he's bad or something. So that's my question. At number 11, Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. I think this feels like a reach. I'd prefer other players here. But the need is met for sure. So I understand this pick 100%. The Niners' biggest hole in their entire team is defensive tackle. So I won't even debate that. A play wrecker, overwhelmingly powerful and explosive. He could help replace veterans Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave. Nolan had 6.5 sacks in his lone season at Ole Miss after 2 seasons at Texas A&M. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like the need. I'm just not sure that player will go that high. At number 12, Tet McMillan. I would love this if I was a Cowboys fan. I think he's being underrated right now. Some evaluators are dubious of using an early pick on a wide receiver with somewhat pedestrian speed. Well, then why'd they pick Drake London in the top 10? And has Drake London worked out? I would say so far, yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I think T-Mac, the blend of the smoothness with the height, the size, the hands, I'd be willing to buy in, especially if he's your number 2. Like, he complements CD very well. So I'd be all over that if I were the Cowboys. Number 13, Will Johnson. I could see it. I don't know if they should go there over D-line and O-line, though, because the Dolphins, they've put too many resources in the perimeter of their team and not enough resources into the strength of the line of scrimmage. And that's why they're consistently seen as soft. That being said, they have old man Jalen Ramsey, and then they've got Storm Duck and Cam Smith. So I'm not sure exactly if corner can be passed on here. They also have like the bigger sized corners as well. Will Johnson does fit that. They play a lot of zone, so that would make sense. Tyler Warren to the Colts is everybody's favorite fit. The Colts have not had a tight end reach 500 receiving yards in a single season since 2018. Wow. That is embarrassing. And I'm pretty sure Andrew Luck played that year, and he loved tight ends. Who was it that hit 500 yards? It wasn't Kobe Fleener, was it? Was it Dennis Allen? No, it was not Dennis Allen. What was his name? Dwayne Allen, right? Who else played for them at tight end? Colts fans, let me know in the chat, man. Tyler Warren, everybody's going with that one. Mike Green to the Falcons would be beautiful for them. They need sacks. They need pressure. And the Falcons had the second fewest sacks last year. They get a guy that produced big time 17 sacks in 2024. I think he's got a full arsenal of rush moves, just as he says here. I mean, check out the spin move for this guy. Kelvin Banks to the Cardinals. Another offensive line pick for the Cardinals in the first round. So we're tracking that. That seems to be constant. Keep attention on that. Banks has versatility to play left, right, guard. So he'll fit somewhere. Right? Their right tackle last year, Jonah Williams, who they signed, got hurt. So that's something to think about. Let's see with Banks. Banks started 3 full seasons on the left side at Texas, showing a good combination of size, nimble feet, and pass protection acumen. He allowed a pressure on just 0.8% of his pass block snaps in 2024, which tied for the 3rd best. All right. I don't know if he would start at tackle, though. I don't think he would. So he would have to play guard. Arizona has an interesting offensive line arrangement as Paris Johnson started his career at right tackle before switching to left. Yeah, but what about Jonah Williams? Are they just going to cut him? I don't know. Number 17, Gray Zabel in the first round for the Bengals. I think if the Bengals go with offensive line or any offensive position in the first round, I will be absolutely pissed. Like, how could the Bengals not go with defense in the first round? Now, there's probably going to be some argument here. Yeah, well, it's no mystery the Bengals must attack defense in the draft. There's one notable position that they need. Yes, guard. Now, there's still some offensive guards out there that they could sign. I think Brandon Scherf is still available. Okay? And you can find guards in the second, third, fourth, fifth round. We've seen it before. I've seen the Patriots take 2 guards in the same draft become Pro Bowl players. Shaq Mason and Joe Thuney. It happens. So for me, I would not draft a guard in the first round if I were the Bengals. I would draft a impactful defensive talent. Whoever the best guy is. That would be my opinion. 18, Seattle. Matthew Golden. Interesting pick. I don't think they'll go with the receiver, but that's the second mock draft in a row where somebody has them with a receiver. Following their trade of DK Metcalf and release of Tyler Lockett, the Seahawks have made small strides to retool their receiving room. Well, they had JSN. They did add Cooper Kupp and MVS. And MVS and Tyler Lockett, whether you want to believe it or not, I mean, it's not too far off at this point in Tyler Lockett's career. And Cooper Kupp was signed to a decent contract. So that's their hope there, I would think, to put less money into wide receiver and more resource in other positions. I think that's the whole point of it, is it not? But Golden would certainly add some speed, which is definitely what they need. 4.29 speed. You know, that's something that the Seahawks definitely need. But it feels like that's not the direction they want to go. So I think they should address the offensive line. I'm just not sure the Seahawks would reach for Ohio State's Donovan Jackson or Alabama's Tyler Booker. All right. I don't think he fits. I don't think Tyler Booker really fits. I think defense could be a solution too. Malachi Starks to Tampa. Tampa allowed the 4th most passing yards per game last year. Yeah, they were pretty bad, especially in the middle of the field. Starks was not impactful this past season as he was in 2023, but his high-end skill set is still there. This feels high for Starks, considering where he's been going in a lot of other mocks. I will say that. But yes, I think one of the underrated needs on the Bucs is safety. So I don't disagree with this. He played plenty of snaps, covering the deep portion of the field, hovering over the slot, and even walking down the box, which would give them 2 versatile safeties. So that's interesting. Antoine Winfield, stud. At number 20, Hampton, back-to-back mock drafts. Okay, makes sense. They need a lead running back, a guy that can play on all 3 downs, be a game changer, another guy that can get the ball in his hands and do damage. That makes sense for Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I understand. Jackson Dart. Now, I will say this. What's the other position Denver could pick other than running back? Wide receiver, I think it's a possibility. Maybe center, like interior offensive line, but I doubt it this high, maybe a little bit later. Could they still go with a linebacker at this spot because of the Dre Greenlaw sort of uncertainty? That's possible. There's not a lot of huge needs on Denver, so that's tough. Pittsburgh, Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss. This is interesting. Well, it seems the Steelers are most likely the landing spot for Aaron Rodgers. Signing him would not preclude them from looking toward the future at quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I could understand. I think Steelers fans would be kind of angry at this, though, in my opinion. I don't know. Steelers fans, speak for yourself in the comments. How would you feel about signing Aaron Rodgers and then drafting Jackson Dart in the first round? Not the second round, the first round. Let me know in the comments. Because this is my problem. If I'm a fan of a team that has a veteran quarterback that I know is going to be around for like 1 more year, I want to go all in on that quarterback. I want to give him the best possible solution. That's my opinion. We could draft a quarterback next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do we have to force it? I would rather them just add a good player for, the team right now. But that's just my team building philosophy. I understand it. At number 22, Colston Loveland once again. This is a common projection in part because it would reunite Loveland with his former college coach, Jim Harbaugh. But the fit really does make sense for the Chargers. They did just sign Tyler Conklin. They do have Will Dissly. Going to throw that out there. Los Angeles lacked a movable matchup player at tight end. They just lack movable matchup players in general that can win one-on-ones. Did you watch the Texans game? They need matchup issues. So I agree. Michael Williams sliding to 23 is crazy. I think the Packers would definitely look at an edge player if one were to slide this far. I haven't seen him slide this far in like any mock so far. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I totally get this for them. They need a pass rush. Like their pass rush last year was super underwhelming in the first year of their new defensive coordinator. So Halfley. And Halfley is a San Francisco guy, right? So defensive line. Packers have also picked defensive line in the first round frequently. Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary. And this is why it's disappointing that they don't have a pass rush, because they always pick these guys in the first round. Minnesota, Barron would be a great fit for Minnesota. Very versatile player, can play inside, outside, kind of like Byron Murphy. Question would be which one plays outside, which one plays inside. That is, I guess, a little bit of a question there. They already went in on their interior. Their edge is good. They still got to develop Dallas Turner. Their linebackers are solid. Maybe linebacker. Maybe, but I think their linebackers are kind of underrated. Like Blake Cashman is pretty underrated. Ivan Pace is pretty good. So I think they've got maybe safety. But yeah, Barron would make sense. I mean, the guy probably could play safety. Houston, Donovan Jackson. This is another Donovan Jackson for the Texans. This is 2 in a row. Houston would continue its offensive upheaval with the addition of Jackson, who just cracks my top 20 prospects. I haven't really seen him in the mock drafts that high. Maybe he's starting to sneak up. Maybe teams are starting to talk about him, and that's where Field Yates and these guys are getting this information. Maxwell Hairston to the Rams. Very twitchy and fast. He doesn't seem to fit their archetype, though. I will say that. They like big, long, and slow corners that play zone. So I don't think that's really what Hairston is, but it would definitely improve a key weakness for them, which is speed in the back end of their defense. They also don't play a lot of man, so I'm just not sure he's a great fit there, but I understand the cornerback need. It's the most frequently mocked thing for the Rams. Number 27. We passed 7, Mitch. James Pierce Jr., I think, is going way too low in a lot of these mocks. I'm not sure why he's lasting so long. But yeah, he would be great for the Ravens. They need an impactful pass rushing talent. He ran a 4.47, which is crazy. He's got a lot of bend, right? That's a guy that's got a lot of upside. Bendy and fast. Lions getting Derek Harmon at this spot is a huge steal. I do wonder if they would go D-tackle, though. Maybe they would like this player so much that, but this feels like a huge steal because, the production is there. But then, okay, they got McNeil, they got DJ Reader. Do they need another defensive tackle? Like, defensive end to me is a bigger need. I would maybe even prefer them to go like linebacker, maybe not linebacker, safety or corner, because Branch is only in one spot at one time. So Washington Commanders, Nick Amanwari out of South Carolina. I think I butchered that. The Commanders added veteran defensive back Will Harris to replace Jeremy Chin. Downgrade. Okay. I could see them going safety. My question is, has Dan Quinn, I guess you would have to go back to Seattle, right? Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor had 2 impactful safeties. But I don't really remember in Atlanta. They did have Keanu Neal, but he was not an early pick. And then in Dallas, they didn't have big-time picks at safety. So I'm not sure if they'll go that direction just because of history. But if they really like the player and they feel that can help them, I think their defensive line could use some help, especially at the edge position. Projected trade in the AFC East. Wow. You think the Bills would actually trade with the Patriots? That's pretty crazy. But you are an AFC East guy, so maybe you know something. Josh Connerly Jr. out of Oregon. I've heard the Patriots really like him. So this would make a lot of sense. And this would, if they got Connerly and Travis Hunter, I might take my pants off and my shirt off on stream. My goodness. We would be set up for years. That would be beautiful. I can't even believe. An AFC West deal. The Raiders and the Chiefs. Luther Burden to the Raiders, trading up for a receiver. Now, that's an interesting one because I'm not sure that he's a great fit alongside Bowers and Myers because he's a movable chess piece type of guy. He's more of a slot player, a yak player, right? So, yeah, I don't know if he fits with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. I just feel like that's a lot of overlap. So I don't know about that one. Number 32, if Jahad Campbell lasts at 32, I don't know. I'll sell free t-shirts on the channel. Like, what are we talking about? He's not going to last that long. I don't see it. It hurts me to see Campbell have to wait this long. He's the final prospect on my board in the top 25. That seems low. But after recent left shoulder surgery, his health outlook at the start of the season is less clear. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. So that's potentially impactful. But hey, a team already missing Nakobe Dean is going to draft another injured linebacker. That sounds interesting to me. So I don't know. Feels like he'll go before that. Now here we're talking round 2. Now we got something. Tyler Shuck to the Cleveland Browns, the first pick in the second round. This would be big time stuff. After skipping the quarterbacks at number 2, Cleveland can open day 2 by taking the talented Shuck, who has an impressive arm and moves well, leading to 23 touchdown throws last season. He could compete with Kenny Pickett to start with Deshaun Watson sidelined. I mean, this is a guy that, yeah, he hasn't played a lot in college, but he is an older prospect. He is a wiser prospect. This is the one thing that I'd be scared of if I was a Browns fan. Do you remember Brandon Weeden? Now, I'm just saying, Shuck is a much better player, much better prospect, but that would scare me a little bit just from the history standpoint. But I am surprised that he has him going this high. I don't know if I've seen him go this high, but that is interesting. The Bills, Kenneth Grant. This feels a lot more accurate than the previous mock draft we covered. Kenneth Grant going in the early second round. That makes more sense for the type of player that he is. That being said, I don't think the Bills are going to go with defensive tackle with their first pick because they've addressed defensive tackle with Larry Ogunjobi. They've addressed defensive line in the offseason already. They need corners and safeties. I don't see them going with the D tackle unless it's by far the best player on their board. Tennessee, Donovan Ezeraku, that makes sense. They need pass rush. Absolutely. Also, a Boston College kid could replace a Boston College kid in Harold Landry. He had the second most sacks with 16.5 and the most pressures. Surprising that a player with that much production is going in the second round. Trey Amos to Jacksonville. I agree with that pick. They went D tackle early, addressing the corner after to potentially be the CB2. That would be good. I like that. 6'1", 4.43, great ball skills, stood out for Ole Miss. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a really good start for Jacksonville. They definitely need to address their defense. Watch out, though, because I think they could use some offensive line help maybe. I think that wide receiver is not out of the question either. So Kansas City, offensive tackle, Josh Simmons. This seems to be very frequent and common. Simmons makes sense for the Chiefs because they did sign Jalen Moore, not War, to start. And Jalen Moore is going to get first opportunity. They gave him money, right? And he's playing tackle. He's not playing guard. And Jawan Taylor is making money at right tackle. So they've got their tackles short term. But if Simmons could come back and eventually be maybe their left tackle or maybe their right tackle or whatever, that would make sense. But would guard be out of the question for the Chase? Replacement for Joe Thuney, would that be crazy? Would defensive line be crazy? A guy beside Chris Jones? Or defensive end even? The starter opposite Karlaftis? I think those positions are very possible as well. Tyler Booker could be very possible for the Chiefs. And he goes 38 to the Giants, which I like. I don't mind that at all. I think they need offensive line help for sure. I think that guard and center are still very much in play for the Giants. I think tackle is much better than people think. Illuminor is a better player than people think at right tackle. They have their receivers. They've got their running back, their tight end, their quarterbacks now. You went with Shador early. I think they could use maybe, I'm thinking, they address safety. They could still use another corner. But yeah, I mean, offensive line the second round would very much make sense. 39, Emeka Abuka to the Bears. I think this would be not a bad pick by any means. I mean, very talented guy, very pro ready, zero fat on his game. He's a great route runner, but I feel like, would that be the best need for them at that point? Because you went offensive line. Like, I would rather them pick up a defensive lineman. Emeka Ibuka, I guess he could be like their third receiver, which you're going to spend a 39th pick overall on your third receiver. I mean, I don't know, man, but I guess he's a really good player. At number 40, Jaden Higgins. I don't think he's going to go this high, but to the Saints don't need receivers. Why do people think the Saints need receivers? Are they trading Chris Olave? Are they trading Rashid Shaheed? Until that happens, like, do people not like Rashid Shaheed? Like, what is people's problems here? Like, they need offensive line. They need corner. Like, what are we talking about? They need a quarterback in the future. Another pick for the Bears at running back at 41. I'm not a Judkins guy. I would never pick him this high. I think he's slow as shit, but yeah, I wouldn't like that pick at all. But hey, running back does make sense for the Bears. I think DeAndre Swift is not a very good running back. At number 42, Mason Taylor out of LSU for the Jets. Yeah, the tight end does make sense. Tight end makes sense. If they're going to go offensive line the first round, which makes sense. Tight end second round does make sense. Although, yeah, it's a clear need. I can't even really deny it. Ursary from Minnesota, the offensive tackle to the Niners. Okay. Can Ursary play guard, though? Because he's not going to be playing tackle early unless he's playing right tackle. Right? Now, he would replace Moore as the primary backup for Trent Williams. I think the Niners need guys that can play right now, believe it or not, on the defensive front and the guard position, and maybe even center. So I feel like this is more of a down-the-road pick, but if they could maybe move McKivitz or Ursary to one of these other positions, I'm not too familiar with the versatility in Ursary's game, though. Cowboys, Trayvon Henderson would be a great pick. I think he is a good running back, a good prospect. Electric is a good way to describe him. I think he'd be a stud for them. So I like that pick. Two offensive playmakers early would be nice for them. I mean, those are two guys I really like, too. Number 45, Carson Schwessinger out of UCLA. Haven't really studied this player, but almost getting there, guys. Getting there. Broke out last season with 115 tackles. I do think linebacker makes a lot of sense for them. They say exceptional range, covered instincts, sideline to sideline speed. Makes sense. Now, keep in mind, they've got a new defensive scheme. It's no longer the Seattle scheme. So linebacker could be less of a need because they do have one really good linebacker in Franklin. But defensive line is pretty well stocked. Safety is pretty good. Corner is solid. I think they could use, so they went tight end. I think they could use interior O-line. Their tackle situation, Braden Smith's getting older. Could they go with a quarterback? Would that be crazy? But linebacker makes sense. Defensive tackle, Darius Alexander for the Falcons. Falcons could truly go in defense the entire draft. I wouldn't be surprised. So the Falcons went edge rusher. Am I correct on that? Early in the draft, in the first round? I think they went with an edge rusher. Mike Green, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, which would be a great pick. Defensive tackle, yeah, I think they could also go corner here. That wouldn't be surprising. I wonder if they would go center at any point. Number 47, Arizona Cardinals, going with an edge. The other one out of Texas A&M. Okay. I will say they did pick up Josh Sweat. They do have Baron Browning. They do have Darius Robinson. And early in the draft, they went with an offensive lineman. I think they're more like, they did pick up Calais Campbell. So I think corner is a possibility for them. And I think defensive tackle is still a possibility, but anywhere in the front seven. Linebacker could be a possibility. Guard for Miami out of Arizona. Yes, I agree with this pick. Excellent combination of size and quick feet. They signed James Daniels, who's also coming off in a serious injury, so watch out for that. Glaring issue at guard on the interior. Yeah, they need to stock up and they need to protect Tua. I agree. Bengals going with Thomas out of Florida State, a guy that I like. Good size, ball skills, and top speed. Lacks top speed, but he's physical. I do wonder though if he would. Okay, so the Bengals defense now, I do wonder if they would want a guy with that type of speed because they have coveted this faster corners. I mean, they picked Turner, right? Who had like 4.2 speed. I wonder if they would go with a guy this slow. I'm not sure about that fit. Seattle at number 50, going with a corner. I do think this is an underrated need for them. I think they need another corner on the outside, opposite Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon being in the nickel spot. So yeah, I agree with that. I think that Mike McDonald would want that. Aroro for Denver at tight end. Now, I don't think they're going to go tight end early. I could be wrong, just because they did sign Evan Ingram to, I think, a multi-year contract. So I'm not sure if they'll go with a tight end. I think they could be more likely to go with a future prospect on the offensive line. I mean, Garrett Bowles is getting older. They could go with a center. They could go with a receiver. They could go with another defensive back. That feels like a bit of a, I don't know about that one. Number 52, Jared Wilson. Yes, okay. Center for the Seahawks makes a lot of sense. I'm not even going to debate that. Elite footwork, movement skills. Yes, that would fit their scheme as well. The Kubiak zone scheme. Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame, aggressive. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of him personally. I need to study him a little bit more, but from what I've seen, he's a little inconsistent. But Morrison, physical, outside, good size, kind of like Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean isn't super physical, but he's got very good size and very good speed. So if that's what they're looking for, that could make sense. 54. Jack Beck, is it? Out of TCU. It could be Betch. I don't know. I haven't watched him yet. One of my favorite prospects in the class, easy separator on the top of his routes. He has excellent hands. Sounds like a guy that I would like. And his instincts after the catch. He might not be wide receiver one that Green Bay needs, but he could make an impact on the offense. They need a wide receiver one. Bro, I'd rather than just pick a corner. If you're going to go with a defensive lineman in the first round, pick a damn corner if you're just going to get another wide receiver too. Los Angeles Chargers going with a wide receiver. Okay, yes, I can't deny that. But 2 weapons in a Jim Harbaugh-led draft class? I doubt it. I just doubt it. Bills going with another defensive lineman. Oh my goodness, guys. They have defensive line. They need corner. They need safety. They need secondary. Has anyone looked at their freaking cornerback depth chart? Am I out to lunch? At number 57, Jalen Knoll, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Yes, this is one that I've seen actually fit into the first round at times. A lot of people like him. Think this would be a good fit, a good pick for them. They need a wide receiver for sure. Like another guy that could be their number one as a possibility, because Adam Thielen's ancient. Jalen Coker is not a number one, although he's intriguing. And Leggett still needs some work. Kyle Williams is one that I really like. And I don't know if the Texans will go with another receiver this high in the draft, maybe a little bit later. But CJ Stroud seems to have a lot of influence. Offensive line, I'd rather them just go with another one. I'm not going to lie. Number 59, Baltimore Ravens, Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. Sure. I think that safety is underrated. I think Washington is underrated, but for the Ravens, they went with an edge, so I can understand passing that up. Offensive line would be a position that I would look at. I wouldn't mind the Ravens to pick another receiver, even though they signed D-Hop, so that's a short-term no need. Yeah, I would like a guard or a tackle, maybe, or maybe a corner, but like, yeah, okay, I could buy safety if they like that player. Number 60, guard for the Lions. This is a guy that's, I think, kind of underrated. Ratledge out of Georgia, one of the more polished players in the class. Yeah, could play right away. Slot right in for Kevin Zeitler. That makes sense. Projected trades. Saints get their quarterback, Will Howard, to the Saints. That would be one of the most outrageous, absolutely ludicrous reaches I've ever seen in my life. I think Will Howard, when I watched him, is like a 5th round pick. Like, I cannot see him as a 2nd round pick in any way, shape, or form. I do not see it. But I do think that they'll pick a quarterback. Or I think they'll pick one, but I do think they could pick one in the first 2 rounds is what I should say. Jacob Parrish to the Bills. They have 2 2nd round picks. I didn't even know that. Cornerback out of Kansas State. Oh, maybe they traded back. Right? Okay. Maybe they traded back. Yeah, they traded back with New England, so they got 3 seconds. Okay. Jacob Parrish, yes, they need a corner. Thank you for finally giving them a defensive back. Landon Jackson, edge for Kansas City. So he understands the Kansas City needs like I do. I agree. Landon Jackson's an interesting player. He looked really good at the Senior Bowl from what I saw. 25 tackles for loss, 13 sacks over the last 2 seasons. And Alfred? Like the Butler? Collins out of Texas. 6'6", 332. 34 plus inch arms. The Eagles love to address the trenches. Yes, that wouldn't be surprising whatsoever. So that is your 2-round mock draft. Some really interesting picks. That Will Howard pick is crazy. Crazy. What did you guys think of this mock draft? Let me know in the comments. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a 2-rounder. If you want a specific mock draft, let me know in the comments and I will react to it. There's so many coming out and I'll do a few more of my own, like at least a couple more of my own. But reacting to them also provides, some of my thoughts as I continue to scout these players. Some of my thoughts on the prospects, some of my thoughts on the needs and the fits. And that's mostly what I'm kind of trying to discuss is like, does this team need this type of player? Does this type of player fit this scheme? Does this, position make sense? And that's kind of where I'm being critical because people have different opinions on where a prospect will go or how good a prospect is. So that's not really what I'm looking at. It's more so like the need and stuff like that I'll criticize. So that's my opinion, guys. Thank you guys for watching and we'll see you in the next video. Deuces.